do better for ourselves, and we want to do better for our families, right? So 20 years, and we're in the business of educating people how to do better financially. I'm gonna kind of go into a little bit here. So why are people having so many financial challenges? I don't have to tell you, right, that people today are facing a lot of financial challenges. When you go to the grocery store, what do you see? When you go to the gas pump, what do you see? When you look at the paycheck, what do you see? Right? Everything is going up in price. Everything is so expensive. Gas prices, food prices. You ask for a raise at your job, and they say things are tight. We can't give you more money, and every year it's impacting our bottom line. Correct? So, outside, not only that, but what we found out is that most people today they lack financial education, like Pastor mentioned earlier. What do you do with the money that you have? Okay, how can you accumulate? How can you give more to the next generations? Okay, education is really, really, really important if we're going to get ahead. The second one is most people don't have a plan. Okay, if you don't have a plan, it's going to be very difficult to get ahead, right? You have to have like that guide. Like the Bible is the guide for life. You have to have a plan. And the Bible talks about money, believe it or not, more than it talks about heaven. Did you guys know that? It's mentioned more in the Bible. Money is mentioned more in the Bible than heaven, right? So they're pointing us in the direction that this is an important topic. Okay, and the other one is having a coach is really critically important. You know, if you anybody watch soccer, you know the best players in the world. Do these guys have coaches? Why is that? I mean, these are the best players in the world, right? But they have coaches. Do you think that people that are millionaires, they have accountants and CPAs and financial advisors that they go to for advice? Is there a reason that they have professionals that are in their corner, right? Most of us, who do we have giving us advice? TikTok, right? We have maybe YouTube. We have family members. You know, most of us don't have those people that have the knowledge that can impart upon us so we can do better financially. Would you agree? So, is it any wonder that there's a lot of challenges out there today? No, right? So, I'm going to share some information with you guys today. At the end, there's like a sign-up sheet. If you guys want a free consultation, we can sit down with you guys one-on-one with Olufemi. If you guys want to kind of get more information about how you can implement some of the strategies that we're going to talk about. I'm also going to be raffling off some things, maybe for the kids. So that'll be available too as well. But so what are some of the financial challenges that are going on today, do you guys think? What we're going to get a little audience participation here. Economy, right? It's a big one. So if you take a look at the first stat up on the screen, let me see if I can. There we go. Says 74% of workers report that they're living paycheck to paycheck. Anybody ever live paycheck to paycheck? How stressful is paycheck to paycheck? I've been there, right? It's like I've gone to the gas pump, only put $5 worth of gas in my car because I didn't have any money. Right? That's a stressful way to live, right? A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Almost half of Americans worry that they're going to run out of money in retirement. Imagine working 30, 40, 50 years, and then you're 70, 80 years old, you ran out of money, you have to go back to work. That's not the goal for most people, right? Yet most people are kind of on track because they're not saving enough money. The average American has $90,000 in consumer debt. That includes credit card debt. That includes student loans. That includes car loans. You know, the Bible says that the borrower is slave to the lender, right? So if you are paying 12, 20% interest to the bank, and you're getting back from the bank 1%, maybe if you're lucky, who's winning? Who's getting ahead there? The bank is getting ahead, right? So we need to learn how to stay out of debt. Okay. About 60 million households in the U.S. are either underinsured or not insured at all, with the average life insurance coverage gap is about $200,000. So what does that mean? Imagine someone that has $90,000 in consumer debt, They're living paycheck to paycheck. They have all these bills. They have all these obligations, and we all want to live a very long life, right? Nobody wants to die when they're young. So you make it. You know, maybe your kids are grown, right? But somebody passes away with all these debt and all these obligations. What kind of situation would you want to leave your kids in financially? Yet most of us have never been taught the importance of protecting your assets for the next generation. Does that make sense? And then this one, it says nearly 30% of Americans say they have less than $25,000 worth of retirement savings. You know, the average 50-year-old has about $25,000 in savings. And the older that I get, you know what I found out? The older that I get, the faster the years seem to move by, right? I can't believe it's like, I can't believe we're almost at the end of the year already. It's like, it feels like we just started the year. Imagine if you're 50 years old, you're 15 years away from retirement. How fast is that time going to come? And if you only have $25,000 saved for retirement, how much can you possibly save between 50 and 65, right? There needs to be something that you do to make sure that you don't end up like most people, right? So now, if you guys watch the news, they're talking about, you know, you guys have seen about the inflation, and they're talking about a crisis that may be coming soon, okay? They're saying, and this is an article from a CBS News Money Watch article, and this is from October 20th, 2022. This is a couple days ago, right? Very new. They're saying that the Energy Department predicts that heating bills will rise by 28%. Heating bills are going to go up 28%. Oil is going to go up 27%, and electricity is going to be 10% higher. We're coming into the winter months, right? And so it's going to get expensive to heat your homes. So, and that comes with inflation, which has grown at the fastest pace it has in over 40 years. They say 6.6%, but for those of us who have been to the grocery store, we know it's not 6.6%. We know it's more than that. We know food and everything is going up by a lot. So this guy right here says that his name is Aaron Ramo. He lives in Maine, and he's trying to avoid a situation where he's going to have to choose between putting food on the table and heating their home. Imagine how bad of a situation that is when you have to choose between, you know, food on the table and heating your home. Not good, right? But you have to be aware, right? You have to be aware of what's coming. The next thing, anybody heard of Jeff Bezos? Anybody use Amazon? One of the wealthiest men in the world, right? He probably has advisors around him telling him what's going on in the economy, what to expect. Would you agree? And what he's saying is that that he's warning that the economy may slump into a recession, and there's going to be a very painful downturn in the economy this coming, you know, months or maybe year or two. Okay. Now, why has that happened? Anybody here in the process of buying a house or wanting to buy a house? At the beginning of the year, if you could get a mortgage loan for 3%, if you want to buy a house, right? If you check now for a mortgage loan, it's about 7.5%. You see that? So what that does is it makes borrowing money more expensive. Okay, the Federal Reserve has actually been raising the interest rates from nearly 0 to 3, and it's going to be approaching 5% by the beginning of the next year. So those credit cards that you have, if you have those 0% credit cards, introductory rate, and then once the rate runs out, guess what's going to happen to that rate? It's going to go way up, right? If you want to refinance a house, you want to buy a car, lending is going to get more and more and more expensive, right? Which means more to the banks and less for us in our pockets and savings for your kids and the things that you want to do, correct? A little bit more, it says food inflation, which we talked about. If you take a look at the grocery store, ladies, you guys probably do most of the shopping for the house. You probably noticed cereals are up 16% cost. Dairy products, 15%. And if you have teenagers, you know that they go through the gallon of milk like in 2 days, right? You got to be restocking the shelves of milk. Also, non-alcoholic beverages like juices up 12%, fruits and vegetables 10%, meats and poultry 9%. Americans are buying fewer and fewer items at the grocery store as food prices surge. This is from a survey, okay? So this is nothing new. All the stuff that I'm talking to you about right now, you guys have seen it in your daily lives. So what can you do to protect yourself? What can you do to be in a better situation in the future? And here's a couple of bullet points. These are 8 tips that you can implement to be in a better situation financially. Business Insider, October 22nd, which was today's the 23rd, I believe, right? This was yesterday. They said the alarm bells are sounding. The U.S. economy and recent modeling by Bloomberg economists found a 100% likelihood of a recession next year. That means it's probably time to take action to protect your finances now. Otherwise, we're going to be in a world of hurt if we don't make some changes, right? So, what are some of the things? Here's 8 ways you can bulletproof your finances ahead of the 2023. Okay, I think this is the perfect time because we're gearing up. I mean, we're like less than 70 days away from the new year. So, number 1, the article was talking about is that you have to build an emergency fund. Okay, this is never more brought to light as it was during the pandemic, right? Because how many of us worked in service jobs that maybe you worked at a restaurant, maybe you worked in a hotel, all of a sudden those jobs are gone, and then we're in trouble, right? And if you don't have emergency fund savings, and once the savings runs out, what happens? A lot of hurt, right? A lot of pain. So usually it's recommended that when you have an emergency fund, the goal should be to have anywhere between 3 to 6 months worth of saving of bills in an emergency fund. So for the average family of 4 or 5, I've seen that the monthly expenses are usually $4,000 to $5,000. So if you have $4,000 budget to pay all your bills, you should have anywhere between $12,000 and $24,000 saved in an emergency fund, which could seem like a lot of money, right? And if it seems too overwhelming, what you want to do is have a goal of having at least $1,000 first, right? Have a goal of having 1,000, maybe 2,000, and then kind of build your way up from there. Okay. So number 1 is build an emergency fund. Number 2 is trim your regular outgoings, which basically means trim your expenses. How many of us have raise of hands? How many of us have Netflix in here? Okay, we got some. Keep your hands up if you also have Amazon Prime. All right, so we got Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. Anybody? Yeah. So what's the point I'm trying to make? When you start adding all this stuff, right? Like Amazon Prime, HBO, all this stuff, it adds up, right? So we're in a situation where you know what? You might have to cut back on some of these things. Okay. One of the most expensive things that I see when I sit down with people and I do budgets is that going out to eat is expensive now, right? If you have if you have a family of 4, you go out to eat after a church service, probably, right? Which is a normal thing. You're spending at least how much? $100, at least. 120, right? You go to a sit-down restaurant, you got to leave a tip. Times 4 weeks, that's $400, $500 a month in eating out one day after church, right? It adds up. Okay? So one of the things I tell people is, hey, listen, I'm not saying, don't treat yourself because you work hard during the whole week. You want to treat yourself every now and then, okay? Maybe instead of every week, maybe cut it down to once every other week. And then that $200 you can save and invest, you can pay down your debt, right? So these are discipline things, right? A lot of the things that I'm going to share with you isn't something you've never heard before, but we know 80% of winning in anything is your habits. 20% of everything that it's going to help you is what I'm going to share with you briefly is going to be kind of the knowledge. Oh, yeah, I'm going to remind you of some things. We know we should, save some more money. We know we shouldn't go out so much. But it's convenient, right? You go out, you come home from a long day at work, you don't want to cook. It's easier to order something and they'll bring it to your house, okay? So, but definitely trimming your budget and cutting down on expenses is going to be a huge thing. And then rein in major expenses and squeeze more out of your home. If you have a house, maybe consider renting the basement. Maybe consider renting a room, okay? Or, a rule for major expenses. Anytime you're gonna spend more than $50, give yourself 24 hours before you make that purchase because that'll cut back on regrets, right? How many of us have had buyer's remorse? Like, maybe... a want versus a need, right? Do I really want that or do I need it, right? There's certain things that are needs, right? Like food is a need, okay, but not everything is a need. What else? It says look for side hustles. How many of you guys have heard of that term, side hustles? Yeah? You heard of side hustles, right? So it says look for side hustles. Look for other ways of making money, okay? I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but there's as you're going to see, there's a big need for financial education, and that's an area where especially in minority communities, we need a lot of help educating people on all this stuff, right? So there's a big need in the financial field and in the financial industry where you could come in with no prior experience. You can get a couple of certifications. You don't need a 4-year degree, and kind of like real estate, where you can get a license and then you can learn the trade. You can make yourself a nice income, right? So side hustles, extra money. How would an extra $1,000 or $2,000 help your budget? Do you guys think? Would that help a lot? Yep. The other thing, it says find sources of passive income. How many of you guys have heard of the term passive income? So there's two kinds of incomes that exist. There's an active income and there's passive income. Active income is all the money you make while you work, and passive income is all the money you make when you don't work. Did you guys know that there's some people that make money without having to work? Yeah? Like if you buy a real estate property, you rent it out, that's a passive income. Or dividends from investments, that's a passive income. So most people don't even have a goal of having a passive income, right? So if you have money coming in without you having to work, how much more security are you going to have? How much more peace of mind are you going to have if you have an extra $1,000 coming in? A lot, right? So upskill. What does upskill mean? That means you have to increase your skills. Okay? In the economy and in the market, the economy pays us based on what we bring to the table, right? The more value you bring to the economy, the more money you can make. So if you're not constantly working on developing new skills, and you're putting all your eggs in one basket, if you have your job and you live and die on that job, and then the job goes away, you're in trouble. If you haven't built any more skills, then where are you going to go, right? So getting those certifications. Okay, any opportunity that you have to learn something and up your skills is going to be helpful in the future, because you never know, in the next 10 years you can be in a completely different profession than you were 10 years ago. Right, 10 years ago, I don't know what your situation was, but maybe you didn't think you'd be here 10 years ago, and yet you're here, right? So upskill is very important. Next one, it says transfer any extra income to hard-to-reach savings accounts. So once you make more money, the tendency that people have when they make more money is what? If they have an old car, they upgrade the car, right? If they have a house, they upgrade the house, they remodel, and they spend the money, right? So have you ever heard of the term here in the United States? They have the term keeping up with the Joneses. Have you guys ever heard of that? That means if your neighbor got a new car, you're like, well, we got to get a new car because the neighbor got a new car. If you see the neighbor on Instagram and on Facebook, posting pictures of all their vacations, then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, we should go on a vacation too, right? Now, we work really hard. Why can't we go on a vacation, right? One of the things that I learned from my father, who came from a very poor situation, and he worked really hard, is that he was a really great saver. Okay, so if you make $100, save 90. I mean, right, that would be the ideal. But spend 10, spend 90, save 10 is what I wanted to say. The more, the better. Obviously, right? You got bills to pay. But when if you make 50,000, live on 35,000. As much as you can, right? I know it's tough sometimes, but a lot of it comes from budgeting, right? But avoid the tendency in the urge to impress people that you don't know, right? People tend to do that, right? You want to have that car so you can impress the guy at the red light who doesn't even know who you are, and you have a $600 a month payment that's not allowing you to save money for your kids' education and for your retirement. Okay, so putting this money in accounts that's kind of hard to reach is a good thing, because it's really tempting, right? Because we're emotional. We like nice things. Everybody likes nice things. And then don't panic. This is going to be a really important one, because what's getting ready to happen, especially with the economy and stocks and all that kind of stuff, and you're going to see it all over the news, right? And that stocks are going to go down. Okay, and the tendency of people when they see all this news in the media is that they panic. How many of you here have a 401k at the job? Yeah. Do not take your money out of the 401k, right? Most people will have the tendency of like panicking and like, oh my gosh, my account was at 10,000, now it's at 6,000. What a mistake. It's a long-term game plan. You got to have a long-term focus and a long-term vision, okay? If you look at investments throughout 30, 40, 50-year periods, it never in the history of the markets has the amount that you put in less than what you had when you put it in, right? It's always a positive return, okay? So you have to be consistent, and even when you have the urge of taking money out, the best time to put money into the market, you know when it is? When everything is down. Because you get everything on discount. What do I mean? When's the best time to get stuff for Christmas? Right now or in January? Yeah. My mom would always get she had these like artificial trees, and that $150 tree, she would get it in January for like 25 bucks. You know what I mean? You just got to know when to put the money in. So when the market is down and everybody's panicking, that's when you put money in. You want to buy low, sell high. Same with real estate, right? You want to buy low, sell high. So when all this stuff is going to start happening these next months and this next year, stay consistent as much as you can. Don't panic. Okay? Remember the talk we're having today. Okay? Rein in your expenses, find ways of making additional money, okay? And then don't panic. So those are 8 tips that you can implement and you can apply. Now let's talk a little bit about I covered this a little bit. This is identifying needs versus wants. You have to know, and then we talked about the 24-hour rule, right? Any purchase that's going to be over $50, give yourself 24 hours to think about it before you make that purchase. Sometimes I was very happy that in the past I didn't have any money. Like when I wanted a car, I had no choice but to wait, right? Because I didn't have the money. And a lot of times by the time I had the money, I was like, I don't even like that car anymore. So there's a lot of things like that. Like, you give yourself a self-imposed rule. You give yourself time and it's very easy to be impulsive when you make purchasing decisions, right? That'll reduce regrets about impulse purchases, and it'll force you to save money, which is a great thing. Okay. Next thing right here, eliminate shopping as a hobby. How many people stress shop? You get a little bit stressed, you go to Target, you gotta let out some steam, feels good to spend, right? But then when the credit card bill comes, you're like, oh, doesn't feel so good, right? So you want to eliminate shopping as a hobby. Take the amount the item costs and divide it by what you make per hour. If the item costs $50 and you make $10 an hour, you got to think, how many hours do I have to work to pay this off? It's like 5 hours. Ugh, okay, maybe not. I might not want to buy this, right? These are mental tricks you can play with yourself. Keep track of your spending. We talked about budgeting is going to be really important. Okay, keep a receipt of everything you spend in a month. At the end of the month, separate the receipts into categories. Look for places where excess spending can easily be reduced. The usual suspects are things like entertainment, dining, and clothing. Okay, so a lot of people have a habit of going to $5. I mean, Starbucks. That's what it costs, right, for a cup of coffee. So instead of you going to Starbucks every morning and spending $5, you can go to Costco. You can get the big thing at Costco for $12, and you can make yourself, I don't know how many cups of coffee if you drink coffee, right? These are like little things. Now, talking about debts. Debts are like the #1 financial cancer for most people. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share really briefly a strategy that you can implement where you can eliminate debt, okay? So let's say that you have someone who has a Visa, or a retail card would be like Macy's. They have a Visa, they have a Toyota Financial, they have a Chase card, and they have their mortgage payment. And these are their payments every month. They make a $220 payment, $353, $551, $303, and $1293. Now, what do most people do when they get the credit card statement and bill? That usually they ask you for the minimum payment. Maybe the minimum payment is $25. And we're like, I'm not going to pay the minimum payment. I want to get out of this at some point. So you send $50 to that one, right? And then you get the other one, and it's the same thing. They ask you for $35, you send $50. And then the other credit card, they ask you for $50, you send $75, right? Because you're You want to get ahead. You don't want to be in debt forever. What I would suggest to you is do the opposite. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to order your debts from the lowest balance to the highest balance. And all the extra money that you would have sent to all the other credit card payments, save it and attack the lowest balance. So what's going to happen is that if you put an extra $300 to the lowest balance, what's going to happen to that balance? Quickly. You're going to pay it off. And then you have to make sure that you don't spend and run up that card again. Make sure you do something we call plastic surgery. You guys know what plastic surgery is? That's when you take the scissors and you cut that card so you don't have the temptation of using that card again, getting it into debt again. So you eliminate that one, perform some plastic surgery, and then you attack the next one. So this is what that looks like. If somebody were to attack the first one, they would eliminate that one. And now the $220 that they were sending, let me see if I can. Aha. Let me see if it shows up on the screen. It doesn't show up on the screen, but the $220 that they were sending towards the first card, now you can send that one to the second one. You see that? So now instead of sending $335, you're sending $574. You eliminate that one, and then what are we going to do? We're going to perform what? We're going to do plastic surgery again, cut that one, and then you attack the car loan. So now instead of sending $500 to the car loan, now you're sending $1,100 to the car loan. So you're sending double what they asked for. When you eliminate the car loan, resist the urge of upgrading your car and getting a new one, right? That car can last you, 200,000 miles, okay? And then pay that off, and then attack the other one, and then at the end, you're left with your mortgage payment. And instead of sending $1,200 to your mortgage payment, now you're sending $2,720 to your mortgage payment. You're doubling up payments on your mortgage payment. And instead of paying your house off in 30 years, you can pay your house off in 15 years, right? My dad paid off his first house in 14 years. 14 years. He had a 30-year loan. He lived beneath his means. He rented the basement. Remember we talked about that? And he would double up payments whenever he could. 14 years later, now he has a passive income, right? He still has the house. He rents it out. He's got money coming in. And then he paid off his second house in 10 years. Because of all the money that the first house was paid off already, right? So all that money, guess where he put it? He put it into the mortgage of the second house. So he was sending the mortgage payment plus the rent from the other one, and he paid it off in 10 years. Pretty good, right? This guy came to this country with $5 in his pocket and a shirt on his back, right? So if you implement these strategies, a lot of it is just kind of your habits, right? If you have right habits, your kids' generation, and even your generation, you can change your generations, forever. Okay? So check this next part is even the most exciting part of everything I'm going to share with you today. Once you pay off all your debt, you can take that $2,700 that you were sending towards all your debt, which you no longer have, and you're not going to get back into debt. And what you're going to do is you're going to, before I get to that, using this strategy, instead of paying the debt off in 23 years and be 58 when you're done, and pay $214,000 in interest. You're gonna pay everything off in. The bank doesn't want me to show you this. Yeah, they really don't want me to show you this. Okay, let's see if it. Let me see. This is a really exciting part. There we go. I don't know if you can see it because it's like the background, the green background. But it says, once your debt is paid off in 9 years, this was a 35-year-old, paid his debts off in 9 years. Now he's 44 years old, paid it off 14 years sooner, and avoided $113,000 in interest payment. Now you can take that $2,700 every month, and if you invested it at 9% by the age of 67, it's an extra $2.4 million. Now imagine, remember we went back to the statistics and we said how much does the average person have for retirement? $25,000. What would retirement look like with $2.4 million? Can you imagine? I mean, I don't know what the currency conversion is, right? My parents would always do the currency conversion in their country, right? They're like, whoa, if I had $100,000, it's like, I'll be a millionaire in El Salvador, right? So if you do even here, right, you have $2.4 million. If you live off the interest of that, if you get a 5% interest, that's over $200,000 a year without ever touching the principal. And you can pass that on to your kids' next generation as an inheritance. So you planted the seed in America, and then your generations and your kids' generations do much better with the information that you learned and that you passed on to them. Good stuff, right? Do you think that financial companies know this? Yeah. But financial companies are so good at getting us to spend money. Like I was looking at the Amazon, they have the one-click system. It's like, I was telling my mom, man, it's so easy to spend money. You just like find something on Amazon, you click on it, and bam, and 2 days later, it's there at your house. They're experts. These companies spend millions of dollars, and they hire psychologists to know what the most effective ways to get us to spend our money, right? So you have to fight the temptation and the urge. So what I'm going to do now is I want to play a short video for you guys. There's a whole workshop that I do, which is like the 7 fundamental steps that everyone should take to become financially independent. This is kind of like an introduction to that seminar. It's 5 minutes long. It'll kind of give you an overview. If you like any of the information, if you got any value from what you heard today and you want to follow up, I'd be happy to sit down with you. We do a free consultation. We'll do a budget. We'll help you, plan everything out so you can make good choices and prosper like the talons, right? You can have 2 and 5 talons instead of burying the money and having it at the bank. So let me see if I can, maybe you guys in the back can play the video. Hopefully the sound comes through clearly. I'm gonna shut my mouth and I'll let that video play. And then after that, I can open it up for some questions if you guys have any questions. We'll do some Q&A.
Most of us think about money every day. It's not because we're greedy and obsessed with it. It just touches every area of our lives. Our marriage, our kids, our home, fun and vacations, career, sometimes even how we feel about ourselves. When we get this area of our lives right, we are freed up to focus more on the things that matter most, like our family. When we are uncertain about our finances or not clear about our financial future, it creates worry and doubt, making life harder. Do you wonder things like, am I saving and investing enough? What are the best investment choices for retirement versus college? Do I have enough life insurance? Should I have it on my own or get it through my job? How important is a will? What's the best way to pay off my debt? And most importantly, which step do I take first, second, third? What's my plan? Most people spend more time planning a birthday party or wedding than they ever do their financial future. The number one enemy we face is confusion. For some people, this is a lack of knowing the basics or financial literacy. For others, it means being overwhelmed with too much information and too little time to apply it. In either case, it's possible to crush this confusion and go from unclear to clear in your financial journey. By making smart choices, you can make your money work for you so that one day you don't have to. Much like building a house, there are steps you can take that lead to a strong and exciting financial future. No matter your stage of life, right now is a good time to start. Discover how and remove any mystery about money by watching 7 Steps to Create a Clear Financial Vision. In this short video, you will learn how to build a strong foundation and step by step how to build a financial house you can be proud of. Long-term financial independence is not just a crazy fantasy that other people get to live. It's possible for you. Your dollar is just as valuable as the next person's. You can choose if that dollar disappears or if it goes to work for you. When you make smart choices with money and have a clear financial vision, you'll be trading stress and anxiety for peace and security. And you'll be providing a rock-solid and beautiful financial future for the people who are most important to you. What you're about to learn in the video 7 Steps to Create a Clear Financial Vision can literally change your life.
That was fast. That was over faster than I thought. So we have a whole like a 17-minute video that kind of covers all those things. So what I want to do now is have and I don't know how, I know you guys have things you guys have planned for Sunday with your families, and I don't want to take too much of your time. But if there's some questions, I can kind of cover any questions that you guys might have. Generally speaking, about financial matters. I've been fully licensed in the industry for 20 years, like I mentioned. Also, we'll be raffling off some things. Actually, can you bring those up here? While I do the Q&A. Yeah, you can bring all that stuff in the green box and everything too. So this is kind of a thank you from me that you were so gracious to have me come over and speak to your congregation. I appreciate that. I don't take that responsibility lightly. So here we have a couple of things. Thank you, sir. So here we have a couple of things that I'm going to be raffling off, and we have a box here that you. So the way it's going to work, this is a Bluetooth speaker, right? It's good for the summer bathroom. You can have that in there, and then we also have a Google Chrome. I don't know if you guys have ever used the Google Chrome. I had it a while ago. So we have those two things that we're raffling. So the way it's going to work is anyone that would like to participate in the raffle, just you want to talk to Olufemi, and you'll get a ticket. Okay, we'll put it in the green box, and then the pastor is going to pull the name out of the box at the end. Okay, and then pastor's wife can play. And then that'll also, if you guys want to follow up, also just put your name, and Olufemi's going to be doing that part. So I guess on the back, or where do you want to do that? Yeah, the names and entering into the raffle. We could take like a break right now so we can do that, and then I can do quick question and answer. Yeah. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's do a quick Q&A, and then Olufemi, you have the pen and everything, you have the sheet, and you can start collecting the information and do the raffle. All right. So does anybody have any questions for me, or did I do a really thorough job and explain everything so great? Yes, Pastor Quinley.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Okay, my question is this. I bank with, I have two banks. We have two banks.
Mm-hmm.
We have what I called family savings with a bank. Then myself and my wife, we have a separate bank that we run our miscellaneous. So have a Bank of America. She has SICU, and we both have SICU as our savings account.
Yeah.
So that's how we set it up as a family. But I notice is that, I've been very prudent, I believe, to my understanding,
Okay.
in not making due of credit cards.
Okay.
I have 3 credit cards anyway.
Yeah.
And one of my goals this year is I want to pay everything off.
That's a good goal.
I have one that they tempted me with a lot of money.
Big credit limit.
I know, thanks to my family, we saw the money and we spend it.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I made up my mind that I want to pay everything off.
Yeah.
Now, my Bank of America account, they gave us a free access to our FICO score. They tell you the average of what your credit report is every month. At least I know Bank of America does that. So I keep track of that. That's how I know where I am on the on the stuff. So I noticed that I've been right now, by His grace, I'm above 800.
The credit score.
Credit scores.
Okay. Good. Fantastic.
But I don't want to go with that. You know why?
Why is that?
I noticed that when I don't, and like you said, we need to keep tracks of our spending. As if you have a Bank of America, they tell you, they keep tracks of your spending for you.
They do.
When you're spending too much, they will tell you, this is how much you spend averagely this month. So I keep tracks of that as well. But I noticed that whenever I uses my money, we made up our mind all the things we've been buying in the last 2 years, we've been buying in cash.
Okay.
We've not been using credit card. We just want to discipline ourselves. But I still maintain the credit cards for things like we might have a future plan for a bigger thing that will require us being at that level when talking about credit score, so that I can give you a better, interest rate. So we try to maintain that. But my question is this: I notice that whenever I'm not using the credit cards, they drop my points.
Like your credit score?
My credit scores. But the moment I start going to groceries, using the card to buy gas, to buy food, something jumps back up to, So which one is more wiser? Because I personally, I don't like using credit card anymore.
Yeah.
I have by His grace, have the cash. I want to spend the cash.
Yeah.
Instead of, credit card, they garner interest and all that, and you will think they're doing you a favor. They're not doing you a favor. So which one is much more wiser to apply? Using the credit card, is it a choice? Or should we, just stick to, spending the cash?
That's a really good question. They have actually done studies where, on average, people, when they use credit card, they'll spend about 13% more than they otherwise would have spent if they would have used cash. And I think the reason for that is because if you have 100 in your pocket and you have to break the 100, you kind of think about it twice, right? It's a little bit harder to spend cash out of your pocket than it is to run the credit card, because the credit card is so painless. But if you're going to use credit cards, the one good thing about credit cards is that it's a really convenient way of tracking your expenses, as long as you pay off the balance in full at the end of the month. So if you're paying off your balance in full at the end of the month, some have like rewards points, right? So that might be a good option. But if you are not paying off your balance in full at the end of the month, and you're being hit by late fees and you're being hit by high interest rates, then it's good to have like a cash system. Like maybe you'll have like an envelope with $200 or $300. This is going to be the grocery money this week, right? So it depends. If you're really good at tracking your expenses on paper, do that. If you're like me, I just use the card. I pay it off every month,
Okay.
because everything is like documented, all the expenses and all the charges.
All right, thank you. So my second question is, are there any portfolio that you want to suggest for investment, or is it something you want to talk about now, or one-on-one, like kids college
College planning, yeah.
plans and all that you guys run?
Yeah. So in general, I can say this. And who here has kids? Yeah, got kids. You want them to go to college? Anybody that raise their hands? Yeah. Okay. So where do most people usually put the money to save for the kids' college? At the bank, right? Now at the bank, what kind of interest rates do you usually get at the bank on your savings? Less than 1%, right? So it's not really a really good place of putting your money if you want it to grow. So there are accounts. Have you guys ever heard of accounts called 529s? Those are really popular. So 529s, Coverdell's, UTMA accounts. These are accounts where you can earn a lot higher interest. Your money can grow for you a lot more than you would at a bank account, and they have tax advantages. So all the interest that you earned on those accounts, right? If you put $5,000 out of pocket and it earned another $5,000, you have $5,000 that you don't have to pay any taxes on. Consult your accountant, right? I'm not an accountant, but it works that way. Unlike the bank, at the bank you go to the bank and you earn any interest, they send you something you have to report. You got to pay. As long as they use the money for college expenses or things like that, then it's a much better. Now, as far as specific accounts, that we can like talk on a one-on-one basis, and it really depends on the person's investment goals and risk tolerance and all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, look into, and we do all these accounts, right, with 529 accounts and UTMA and UGMA accounts, right? Those are your best bet. You get a higher return, and you have tax advantages also, right? It's a great question. Yes. like when the baby is born, right? Because yeah, because there's you can start saving money for like future kids, right? That's and there are investment accounts that you can, but for those specific ones, you have to have you have to have a baby. Uh, that's the best time because there's a couple of rules when it comes to money, and one of them is time. So the more time you give yourself to have the money compound, the better. Actually, I'll show you. It wasn't part of my slides. It's going to be in here somewhere. I'm going to have to search for it, but I want to show you something, which actually goes to that question that you just asked me. So I'm going to skip a bunch of these things over here that don't. This is all this stuff that I'm going to skip is really good stuff, right? But you should have 3 separate accounts: emergency funds, short-term savings, and then long-term savings. And this stuff is all really good. I don't have time to get into this. Rule of 72, have you guys ever heard of the Rule of 72? This is really great, the Rule of 72. You got to learn the Rule of 72. I'm going to skip the Rule of 72 for now, and I'm going to go into this one right here. So this kind of goes to your question. And this kind of, if somebody started saving at 25 years old, for example, but you can apply the same example to a newborn baby. If you start saving $200 a month at a 9% for 40 years, from 25 to 65, that grows to $943,000. If you start at 25, right? This is if you start young. But if you wait 1 year, if you say, well, I'm still young, I'm 25 years old, I got a long time for retirement. I'll wait 1 year, I'll do it next year. That 1 year, if you multiply 200 times 12 months, is 2,400 that you didn't set aside. That is going to end up being a $83,000 difference at retirement. So that 2,400 you didn't set aside cost you $80,000 at the end. If you wait till you're 30 years old, which a lot of people, because of student loans and all that kind of stuff, they haven't been able to save money because they're paying off these student loans. $12,000 that they didn't set aside cost them at the end $350,000 difference. If you start at 40 years old, you're down $717,000. So that $36,000 that you didn't set aside cost you over $700,000. The same example could be applied for the kids, right? Education. So if your kid is 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, the longer you wait, the more it ends up costing you. So the sooner you start, the better it is for your kids' college and for your retirement. That's an excellent question. Excellent. Let me see any other questions that you guys may have. Yeah.
Yeah, I invested in Acorn for a few years ago, and about the recurring and the roundups. And I want to ask if it's a good idea. I've been doing that for almost 5 years, and but the investment is a bit slow. I was about changing my mind sometimes, but I got an advice from the people that I should keep it over the years. So I'm thinking if it's still a good idea.
So the good thing about Acorn is that it forces you to save, right? So if you make a purchase and it's 75 cents, then 25 cents goes to investments. So it's a way to automatically build wealth without you having to really think about it. So I like that. I like that you have that option. But when it comes to investing, it's a very emotional thing. So people tend, if they don't have like the right professional advice, they tend to make decisions based on emotion, like I said. And if the markets go down, they start taking money out. From a financial advisor standpoint, like our role is really that of a psychologist to talk you away from the ledge, right? You're about to jump. And you're like, wait, you have so much to live for, right? So it's a good thing that you're doing. But if you can have like an IRA, which is a retirement account, that has a lot of benefits that maybe those accounts may not have. So I keep doing it, but consider opening up also an IRA account as well. Yeah. So yes. Yes. So the way that before you answer your question, so anyone that signed up, you got all the information on the other sheet. So you wanna write their name, and then you give them this one that says Staples, and you keep this one and you put that one in the box, the one with the name, because we're gonna this has the same ticket number. Yeah, you keep one, they keep one. Yeah, you keep the one with the name, so that when we pick it out of the box, we know we'll match it up. Okay, so you had a question about the IRA? Yeah. So okay, and then if you have a follow up, okay. So the IRAs, they have limits of how much you can put into the IRA, kind of like the 401k. And every year they kind of update the limits. But if you're beneath the age of 50, you can put up to $6,000 a year into your IRA. And if you're over the age of 50, you can put $7,000 a year into your IRA. So what I would say is put as much as you can, because it's money that's going to grow tax free for you if you put it in the right kind of plan. They have already announced, I think 2 days ago, that the IRS is increasing the limits on the 401ks because of inflation, right? So you're going to be able to save over $20,000 if you're fortunate to be able to do that. So to answer your question straight, is put as much as you can into the IRA. And then the other question was, you had what's the right amount, and then you said. Oh yeah, monthly is good. Biweekly or monthly is good, because there's a concept called dollar cost averaging, which I didn't get into here. But dollar cost averaging is basically when the markets go down, and you're investing a certain amount of money every month, you're buying more shares of a stock. So I wish I had a graphic to really explain it, to do it some justice. But to answer you straight would be, do it biweekly if you can do biweekly, monthly. It's better to do that than to do a one-time a year $6,000 contribution, because you're buying it at that price, right? But if the market goes down, and $100 gets you more shares when the market goes down, so yeah, do it that way, is what I would say. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. How do you make money off of home equity?
That's a good question. How old are you?
14.
Oh wow, he's getting started early. I mean, you can take money if you have equity in a house. You can certainly get a loan, right? That's not something that I really don't recommend. Getting into debt to make money. I'm more a proponent of eliminate your debt as quickly as possible, and then save and invest. The whatever you have left over. But there are ways to do it that way. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So there are some stocks that pay dividends. So if you can get stocks that pay dividends, that's the best of both worlds. Yeah. Question? Crypto. Oh, I get that question a lot. Yeah. So crypto is very speculative, right? So the good thing about crypto is I like the whole idea behind it, right? Decentralized and all that kind of stuff. I'm in agreement with all that, but it's very like you can put your money and it can go up by a lot, and then you can lose it all also, right? So what I tell people is only put enough money that you're comfortable losing. Okay, most people aren't comfortable losing, right? So I would say limit it to maybe 1 or 3% of your assets if you're going to put it in, because if you lose it, you're not going to be like, you lose everything, right? So, but it is good to take some risks, right? If you don't take any risk, you're not gonna, like the story of the Talons, right? He wanted to keep it safe, so you can risk some of it, but don't risk too much of it. So that's a good one. I see we've had some crypto investors. Yes. No, since it's so new, there really isn't much of a track record, right? So a few years ago, a Bitcoin was like 60,000, right? And then it went down to 20,000. I don't know what it is right now. It's probably like between 20 and 30,000, right? But if you put, I mean, I've heard stories of people refinancing their homes and taking money out of their homes, investing it in crypto, and made a bunch of money, and it worked out for them. And they never heard the opposite, right? They took money out, and then they lost everything, and then they're on the street. So you have to be really careful when you do that kind of investing. It's very speculative. Nobody knows. It could go to the moon or it could crash to the floor. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Great questions. Great questions. Anybody else? If not, I know there's a couple of slides while he's collecting the raffle things that that we can go over really quickly on here. The theory, all this stuff is really great stuff. Okay. Go. Sounds like a auction going on downstairs. So these are the steps, right, that we cover in the video, and so number one is when you're going to build a house. If you build a house, where do you start the construction of the house? Do you start it from the roof or the foundation? And how important is it for a house to have a really strong foundation? Would you ever build your house on sand? No, right, because it's going to crumble and fall. So you want to make sure you have the right kind and the right amount of term life insurance to protect your income, because that's the whole idea. As you're building up your wealth and you're building up assets, you want to make sure you protect what you have, right? Just like you put insurance on your house, you put insurance on your car, you have to make sure you insure your income, right? And then, like we said, this is a recap, right? Build an emergency fund. How many months did we say? 3 to 6 months, good. And then we talked a lot about accelerating paying off debt, right? Because if you pay off your debt, then you can accumulate wealth. Retirement, we talked about having 3 kinds of accounts: short-term account for college education, emergency savings, and retirement. And then other goals and dreams comes last. So if you want to buy a new car and you have no emergency savings, you know what I'm going to say about that, right? Don't do that. Okay, so that's the summary, and the most important question when it comes to all of this is, what is your desire to do well financially, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is really important, because you can have the best. If I want to get in shape, right? Like, I would like to have a 6-pack. I know what to eat and I know what I have to do, but if I can have the best equipment and I can have the best trainer and I can have access to the best nutrition plan, but if I don't do it, am I ever going to get in shape? No, right? So the same thing with your finances, right? You can have the best information available, but if you don't have the willingness to make the sacrifices, guess what's not going to happen? You're not going to get financially independent, right? So are we? Did we get all those tickets in the raffle, or we still got a few missing? Yeah. What I would do is, it would be good to have like a one-on-one, right? So we can sit down and we can kind of take a look at where you're at and what your goals are. We can like do a strategy to help you, because you have a lot of questions, right? So I would say write all your questions. I love that. And we can sit down and we can take a look at what all your goals are, and we can do a plan. Because it's not about like having a product that's gonna. It's more about having an overall plan that's gonna help you achieve all your goals. So that's where I think you could best benefit. Yeah, yeah. All right, so I am done. If you want to add some words.
Thank you so very much. Praise the Lord. Thank you so very much. All right. When we do this, we do the raffle thing at the end of when we've just, because our time is fast spent. Can we just give a round of applause unto Brother Hector? Thank you so very much. Brother Enuga, can you come and get the clicker? And before we share the grace, we're going to do the raffle. Amen. Yeah, just keep it at the back for now. Hallelujah.